And if you have like the prospect on this side, and then you have like you on this side, let's use a really easy one to get started. So let's say the prospect says not interested. Early in your sales career, Colin, how did that make you feel when you were cold calling and someone said not interested to you? Like, what were some of the stuff that was going through your head?
Click next. If I'm being totally honest about it, I wish I had a better answer, but I think probably early, if we're talking genuinely early in my career, like I started in college in a sales role, and if they said not interested, I went, okay, thank you.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was a
So you were
terrible
kind of like,
sales rep when I
yeah.
stopped. It's a miracle I'm still alive and able to feed myself.
So you took no for an answer, it sounds like, and you're like, I'm just gonna move on, dude. I'll talk
Yeah.
to someone else that's interested, which is actually something to that. I can't see you guys on the live stream. What I would love to hear though, if you could put in the comments, how do you feel when someone says not interested to you? What are some of the things that are going through your head?
And
How does it make you feel? What are
back
you thinking?
back me up here. Throw a 9 in chat if you did the same thing. If you have at one point done the same thing as me and just said they say not
Yeah.
interested, and I'm like, okay,
Okay, goodbye.
okay, thanks.
And I can't see the chat, Colin, so let me know if there's like anything coming in here
Yeah,
and if people are chiming in with
I
anything.
think I think there is about a 10-second delay from when we kicked off, so I'll have to give comments
Mhm.
just a little bit to let them sort of sink in for a little bit. But yeah, keep going.
Okay. So I would love to hear what you feel when you get not interested, but a lot of times this is what I hear. Someone says not interested, and we immediately feel like almost like misunderstood because we're thinking like, well, dude, how could you not be interested in this when I haven't even told you like why I'm calling or what we do, or hey, I did all of this research on you. Like, I don't get a chance to say any of that. Like, how could you not be interested? I even had a client, this is last year, earlier last year, prior to COVID, and I was doing a one-on-one coaching call with him actually. His name was Mike. And it like triggered him when we were role playing and I cut him off and said not interested. Like he took it very personally.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when this happens, prospect gives us this not interested, we feel misunderstood, and then we come back with like a rebuttal. And we might use something like old school, like feel felt found, for example, which I think is a really old school technique, which if you can actually use the feel felt found in a way that sounds organic, it's not bad. But what we might say is, well, hey, another client that I was working with 3 months ago, they felt the same way, or they were feeling the same way. And then after I talked to them, they felt this, and here's what happened. And the prospect the entire time is thinking like, dude, what's wrong with you? I told you that I was not interested. I don't have time. They end up feeling misunderstood too.
Mhm.
And it's this like, is Colin listening to me right now? Like, is this a person that I'm talking to? And it essentially goes into, and you sort of alluded to this, we can kind of get in this mode sometimes as salespeople where we're not saying this directly, but we're kind of saying I'm right. And the prospect, they have the ultimate power. They're like, dude, no, actually, I'm right. And I'm going to hang up the phone now. So the way that we can break this cycle here is just with a little bit of empathy. So if we empathize with the prospect first and actually acknowledge them, that goes a really long ways. So we need to make them feel like it's okay that they're not interested. I want to go ahead and pause there. Any thoughts on this calling before we move to like kind of the framework of like the how to actually respond to this?
Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking back to like objections that I've received, and especially like, and you're totally right. Most of them have been. We got a lot of 9s in chat, so thanks for your support. I
Cool.
appreciate the. Yeah, this is a very supportive chat today. I like it. I was thinking there was 2 instances that sort of came to mind, and one was when I was cold calling, and again, I'm fully cards on the table admitting I was a terrible cold caller and be like, hey, this is Colin from AltaStream. This is when I was selling diesel generators and selling renting. We did like hybrid power solutions to mines, data, hydroelectric projects. And I would say Colin from AltaStream. But in Canada, or maybe it's just in Vancouver, there's another company, and I think they're like in phone and like internet infrastructure, and they're called Allstream, and they're huge. And so I was instantly getting an objection, be like, oh, sorry, we don't need any phones. And I'm like, so I'm getting an objection and I've only introduced myself. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
So I always had to, that was always like starting the conversation with like, okay, well, I'm actually from Alta Stream, like alternator. we're in diesel generating, blah, 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 because people were ready to hang up based on a misunderstanding. I ended up dropping that and just jumping right into something else. But I remember very vividly that conversation. I also remember when I was first prospecting, reaching out and doing, I guess, customer development interviews for a tool we built called carb.io. And when I was doing the customer development interviews and when I was doing initially like the first sales calls, we were basically, it was like what sales left and outreach are. We were probably 2 years, maybe a year, 2 years behind and a couple $1 million in financing behind them. But it still wasn't like very well known. And so when I was talking to people, they would always think that it was a CRM system. And I'm like, no, it's not a CRM system. But they were throwing me these like CRM system, like we already have Salesforce. Oh, actually, we work really well with Salesforce. So it's just always these like misunderstandings of you say one thing and they're latching on. It almost seems like they are looking for a way to say no in the very beginnings of the call.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple things they're calling, I think, are extremely important. One is that you were getting objections like not interested, and you were actually thinking about, well, how could I prevent this from happening? Like, how are people categorizing me and what are they thinking about? And how can I just lead with that? Hey, this is Colin with carb.io. We're not a CRM solution. We're actually something else that works alongside of your CRM. But hey, I know I probably caught you in the middle of something. You got a minute, I can tell you a little bit more about it. And what we found when we were doing some research on you can let me know if you want to keep chatting. Like you're building it into like the front part of your cold call, which I think is super important. And the other thing you kind of alluded to was like when people say not interested, it's no different than walking into a mall when we could actually do more of that, I guess. And like the people in the kiosks like approach you or try to talk to you. Like we're conditioned to just be like not interested. You don't even know what they're doing. You just hear, oh, salesperson, product I probably don't need, not interested. So when someone says not interested, I'll oftentimes, Art Sobchak wrote a book called Smart Calling. He calls it a reflexive response, which I really like. So if you can just like not take it too personally and just think like, hey, this person is like just saying what they probably say to every other person that calls them. It's nothing about me or what I'm selling or anything like that they're not interested in. This is just something that people are programmed to do as salespeople.